Welcome back to Talk of the Town, and as I'm sure all of you know, it is getting really cold outside. And I think that's a tough time of year for a lot of folks because most people's energy bills goes way up. People try to, cut costs and turn it down lower when they're not home and all these little tricks that I think you hear people read about. So we're covering a really cool topic today with Jason from Project Home, our news partner, and Chad with Focus on Energy, talking about energy efficiency and how to make your home more comfortable in the process. I think those are all good things. Thanks for being here.
Thank you.
Great to have you here.
Great to
These
be
are
here.
really good topics. So I want to dive right in. What would you say are the most common reasons people's homes are uncomfortable and their energy use is so high during the winter?
Yeah, it's really this process right now of losing heat from your home, and then that is what allows cold air to infiltrate. So it's that simple. It's kind of a no-brainer in a way, but there's so many different sources where you can lose heat from your house, and when you do that, that's where the cold air leaks in.
Exactly, and that's such a good point. Whether you're maybe a renter or you have your own home, depending on the age of the home, there's just so many different factors that go into that whole process. Tell us a little bit about home performance with Energy Star and the whole house approach to really saving energy.
Sure. In partnering with 108 utilities, Focus on Energy is the state program that allows us to provide money, benefits for homeowners, for property owners, and for renters. It's a great program. So Wisconsin has literally won the lottery when it comes to programs like this. We have a really robust, healthy program. My job is to help contractors, who we call trade allies, get out there and get the money to these people. So we want to give you money. The whole home approach of this process is part of the contractors coming out, and usually they'll talk about air sealing and insulation, but they will also talk about ventilation, indoor air quality, maybe the asbestos issue, and that's really important. So when you air seal a house, it can affect the whole process, and we want to make sure it's done safely and correctly.
Yeah, and obviously those are some pretty serious, different factors that maybe people don't think about. They're just thinking about, am I cold or not? But there's so many things you really have to look for in that whole process. But what would you guys say? You guys are really the experts. What kind of improvements are the most commonly needed, and I guess are the best investments for homeowners? Because it always comes down, to that factor.
People's first thought most of the time is windows, right?
Yeah.
But actually, the biggest and best investment for yourself is insulation and air sealing, putting those two together.
Really?
So really trying to tighten up the building envelope. Windows are what people think about, but again, the process is heat is generally leaking out through the ceiling. So at that attic space in particular is the biggest place to start.
Okay.
You stop the quick air leaks, you add insulation effectively, and that's why it's really important to put those two together. And if you can do that throughout the whole house, it can make a big impact on your energy use and especially your comfort.
That's a great point, Jason, because I think you're right. I always think of, I got to seal up the windows, but we all know, we learned in school, right, that heat rises. So that's a great point. But I know you mentioned the savings, and I'm sure that gets a lot of people's attention. Many of these improvements are eligible for rebates through Focus on Energy. So can you explain a little bit more about those rebates and how people can get them?
Yeah, they're available to anybody who has a participating utility company, which means they're using natural gas or electricity to heat their home. And we have several levels. Everybody meets the minimum requirement will get $850. If they meet 20% in savings or higher, they get $1,250, and if they meet 30% in savings or higher, they'll get $2,000. So that's our program giving you $2,000 to help insulate your home. So they're really pretty generous. I mean, we've got a great program.
That's a really big number, and I'm sure for people who are thinking about that and maybe have been thinking about adding insulation to their home, I think a lot of times it can just be daunting because it's going to be an investment that you have to do at some point, but people try to push those things off as long as they can, so that's huge.
Yeah, and for income qualified, there's even more. It's even higher, so it's a great deal.
That's amazing. And I know we've talked a lot about insulation in particular, and I fall into the category of one of those people who attempt to DIY everything. I think, I'll do it myself, I'll save some money. But is that something that's okay to do? Should you be trying to put insulation into your home by yourself?
I'll answer this one real quick. In order to qualify for the program, to be eligible, you do need to have a trade ally perform the work, which is important because there's a lot of safety factors that go into this. Believe it or not, when you make a house tighter, It can make some of your combustibles, like your natural drafting a water heater or something, it can make them backdraft. So we want to make sure things are done safely and correctly. And part of the trade ally process is being trained by our program and having safety inspections performed regularly on the work that you do. So it is important to do it yourself are great, but with this, I'd leave it to the contractors.
Yeah, that's probably some good advice. It never usually ends well when you try to DIY things like that yourself.
Right, and I mean, you know, Chad's talking about if you're to be eligible for the rebates,
right,
you need to have a trade ally. If you're going to do installation on your own, that's another thing. But the issue with that is, you know, attics are not easy spaces to move around in. There's safety issues there. On top of that, if you're just adding insulation, not doing the air sealing first, you're not going to get the same effect.
Right.
So moral of the story, just give them a call and they will take great care of you, and then it'll be perfectly done and you won't have to get your hands dirty at all. That's a win-win, I think.
Yes.
So. Again, we have Jason with Project Home and Chad with Focus on Energy. Great tips, some great rebates. Wow, take advantage of these great discounts and see if you qualify, so give them a call. Thank you guys for being here.
Thanks, Ellen.
Awesome, thank you.
And thank you for joining us today. Thank you to all of our guests, and you can find us next time right here on Talk of the Town, only on Wisconsin's 57.